COVID-19 crisis has brought about unprecedented changes in our lives. We find ourselves in situations not of our own choosing, but imposed by external circumstances. Now, this means that in order for us to save the academic year 2020, we also have to take into consideration the principle of saving lives, which is more primary. Many of our colleges have made initiatives to ensure that they support students in remote learning. This includes lessons which are broadcast on How TV, which are then packaged and distributed to you, the students, via WhatsApp, our department's website, and also various institutions' website. These lessons are meant to support you in this particular crisis, over and above the fewer and shorter lectures, contact lectures that you will be getting. These lessons will be more valuable for you to be able to pass in this particular academic year. We therefore call on all students not to see this as a moment of despair, but to see this as an opportunity to use all these available resources to support your own learning and teaching. I wish you all the best. Let's save lives. Let's save the academic year 2020.
Greetings to the viewers. I'm VK Koza from Ehlanzeni TVET College, based at the Mlomati campus, under the program Office Administration. Today I will be assisting you with New Venture Creation Level 3. Remember, New Venture Creation Level 3, it consists of 4 modules. First module, identify internal and external stakeholders. The second module, the structure of a selected workplace or organization. The third module, basic HR principles. And the fourth module, implementing an action plan for the business operation. So for today, we're going to be looking at module 4. When we look at module 4, the first thing that we're going to be talking about, listing, prioritize, and explaining the reason for prioritize of action to be taken for establishing a business. First of all, let us look at an action before we can look at prioritizing. An action plan. What is an action plan? An action plan is a list of actions that need to be described before sort in order of priority. Have time span for their completion and which show who will be doing what. An action plan should set out the following. Should set out the specific tasks that need to be undertaken. For example, let's say it should set out that a lecturer must lecture in class. That is the task that the lecturer must perform. And again, the action plan, it should clearly prioritize. It shows the priorities accordingly. And again, this action plan, it should show the time frame, which must indicate the starting time and also the finishing time. Remember, even in classes, we've got when does the period start and when does this period ends. And lastly, and who will be responsible for that particular task. Then these are the things that should be set out on an action plan. Now, let us look at action that need to be taken before starting a business. The first action that you must take before starting a business is the feasibility study. What is a feasibility study? A feasibility study, it is a study that shows whether the idea is going to work or not. In other words, before you start a business, you go to that particular area, you study the area, the people living in that particular area, and you look at the needs, if they have the need of your product or not. Secondly, you then prepare a business plan. A business plan, it's a formal written document containing the business goal. Remember, when you start a business, you've got a goal that you want to achieve. Then it should be, or it is indicated on the business plan. After you've drafted the business plan, you have it in your hand, then you can go and seek what? Finances. You start arranging finances. You go out seeking for sponsorship. When you get sponsorship, you come back, you open a bank account. Remember, you can't open a bank account before going and seek finances. You can do any of the two before another. Then you set up a business premise where your business is going to operate. And after you have set up the business premise, then you set up the operational system. From the above list, you then have to schedule and prioritize the action. Now you know what you need to do for your business to be successful. Let us look at what is the next move that you need to do. You need to do what we call prioritizing. What is prioritizing? Prioritizing simply means deciding on what order in which action should be carried out. So you know the first thing that you need to do. Then by doing so, we're saying you are prioritizing. The reason for prioritizing is to identify the correct starting point. You need to know where to start and where to end. It also wants to ensure that there is no time wasted on false starting. You find that you have started with something which you were supposed to end with. Then at the end of the day, you discover that you have wasted your time. Now, there are many ways on how to prioritize, as it depends on the person who creates the list. Remember, we don't prioritize the same. Every person who creates a list have got his or her way to prioritize. Some ways that you can use when you prioritize, you can start with what is difficult. For example, when you are writing a question paper, some prefer to start with difficult questions and end with easy questions. Or we can say you assign resources. When we say assigning resources, instead of doing the whole project alone, you now dedicate these resources to other people, giving other people tasks that they need to carry out. And at some other point, some other tasks need availability of other resources, meaning you can't do this task before doing another task. That is another thing that influences us when we are prioritizing. Some others depend on others, as indicated, availability of resources. Now, this resource depends on the other resource before you can perform it. The effective of other activities, it also affects us whenever we are prioritizing. Now, what do we mean when we mean by scheduling? Remember we said we've got the list of things that we need to do for our business to be successful. And after that, we say we need to prioritize and schedule. What are we talking about now when talking about scheduling? When we talk about scheduling, we are simply meaning giving time frame to an action. Giving time frame for the feasibility study to be completed. Then that is scheduling. For example, you estimate how long the activity shall take. For example, it can be 5, it can be 6 weeks, it can be 10 weeks. Depend on the activity that you are performing. Then from there you start deciding on a starting date. When you must start it so that you shall have the finishing date. Remember we say when you schedule, you need to determine the starting date and the finishing date. Now, after you have done all this, you have managed to list all the actions. You did prioritize, starting with what is important, or starting with the easiest to the difficultest, or starting with difficult to the easiest. Now you also have scheduled, putting the time frame. We then move to set up a business premise and the operational system. Remember, the main aim of running a business is not to go around searching for information, but is to make profit. So now let us put the operating system into place. For us to put the operating system into place, we then have to determine the suitable premises and location. Where do you want to place your business? Where do you want your business to run? Remember, we can't run our business as it wishes us. There are some factors that we need to take into consideration whenever we are running our businesses. The first factor that you must take into consideration are, what type of business will it be? In town, you can't go and say you want to go and start a farm, meaning you need to look a place outside town and start a farm. In town, you can't start mining. So the type of business, it determines the location where you want to start your business. Secondly, how many people are you thinking of employing? If you are thinking of employing many people and it's a firm, it therefore means it must get a bigger space. But if it's not many people, then it can get a small space. Where is the nearest bank? Where your business, you will think of locating it, is there any nearest bank? Remember today, we're not using the old system of keeping money within our houses. We need to bank. So whenever you start a business, look for the nearest bank so that it shall be easy for you for whenever you are closing the business at the end of the day to go and bank. Another thing, will customer need parking or loading area? Remember the business that we are running, they are not the same. Some they need customers to pack their cars and go inside the shop and buy. Some is just a drive-through. So we also have to take that into consideration. What municipality services will your business need? Remember, when talking in terms of municipal services, we are talking about water and electricity. Is your business going to be in need of such things? And is it easy for your customers to access your business? Where your business are located, is it easy for your customers to come and access your product? Another factor that you must take into consideration is the place safe for both customers and employees. Remember, there is an act that says employees' health and safety. So we need to take it into consideration whenever we are selecting a suitable location. Is there any competition for your business? Some people, whenever they start a business, they don't need competitors. They prefer to start their business without competitors. Some, they want competitors to be in their area where their business is operating. Are you thinking of buying or renting the place? This is the most important question that you must have in your mind. Are you thinking of buying the place, or are you thinking of renting that particular place? Let's look at the difference of buying the place or renting the place. Now, when we look at leasing or renting a place, the word lease is simply mean the same word as rent. What is leasing? When you lease a premise, you don't own it, but it's owned by someone else, in which you are free to do as you like with the confines of your lease agreement. But when you buy a place, is when you own the private property to do any you like with the confines of zoning. When you consider to buy, take this into account. Are you thinking like to change? If so, leasing is preferable. Remember, when you talk about change, it's moving from one place to another place. Will buying or leasing offer any tax advantage to your business? Is part of your decision based on later selling the premise at a profit? Then if so, you can buy the premise. And lastly, remember that ownership ties you down to the location. Now, if you choose to lease, take into account the following. The first one, how does the rent compare with other areas where you are located? Secondly, will you be leasing for a short while or forever? Thirdly, what does the rent include and exclude? Remember, when you talk in terms of include and exclude, does it include water and electricity, or it doesn't include it? How will you renew the lease agreement after first term has expired? And again, how will the rent increase be calculated? And will you be able to take or make improvement in that premises? Now, when you have decided whether to buy or lease, you then now can put the operational system into place. What is a system? A system is a collection of activities that is needed to convert certain input into an output. When we talk in terms of input, it's what must be done with. And when we talk in terms of after you have put the input, then there is process, the policy, and the procedure. Then you will get your output. Now, when you talk in terms of the policy, a policy sets the standard for things to be done. And when you talk in terms of the process, it's how things must be done. The reason of having policies are the following. We are trying to prevent theft within an organization. It is part of the core business for each and every organization to have a policy. And again, it helps in keeping customers. We are trying to maintain employees' team spirit, and we are trying to keep waste at minimum. Once you have set the standard, then you set what procedure that must be followed. In other words, you then decide who must do what, how it must be done, and again, when it must be done. In short, procedure is a written plan of action for how something is supposed to be done in an organization. Now, as you have set policy and procedure into place, the last thing is to put your operating system and start producing goods and services. That's the end of the lesson for today. But if you still need more information, you can find us on our website at ehlanzenicollege.co.za or on Facebook at Ehlanzeni TVET College, or you can tweet us at Ehlanzeni TVET College, on YouTube, Ehlanzeni TVET College. That's it from me. Bye.
The COVID-19 pandemic has a serious impact on the college system. It has reduced the interaction between the students and the lecturers, hence affecting the academic year 2020. We are now forced to look into the alternative methods or ways of increasing interaction without violating COVID-19 regulations. This includes broadcasting on TV, radio, and using other social media platforms. Students are encouraged to use all the platforms made available so that we can save the academic year 2020. Working together, we can beat this. #SaveLives, #Save the academic year 2020.